All right, folks, so 1.4 million Canadians already missed at least one mortgage payment. So welcome to Toronto. As we speak right now, there are over 20,000 units empty. So basically half of Toronto and half of these towers are sitting empty as we speak. So we'll get into some data, and what is actually very concerning nowadays, it's what a lot of people are not really taking into consideration, and it's that, you know, perception or that feel that people have, right? And how some of the debt, it's been literally hidden from other equations, right? And one of the big equation is basically that, you know what I mean, that you know, visa debt, student loan debt, and everything that has been going on is been rising, but it's basically hidden by a phenomena. And that phenomena is literally that, you know, equity that's borrowed from current real estate already, and it's kind of buried in there, right? And a lot of those people don't take that into consideration, or they don't calculate that particular debt ratio, right? So that's exactly what happens, right? And it's been happening, in my belief, not only for the past few years, it's been probably happening for, you know, some decades already in Canada. But since we had a robust real estate, you know, I would say hockey stick graph, then, you know, everything is fine. Everything seems to be normal, or it's been like it seems like we're almost honored, right? Like, you own a property, you're privileged and honored, and it is expected and assumed that these real estate prices will actually always rise, right? Every quarter, every year, every decade, and all you have to do is just go to your bank, refinance that particular property, and here you go. You got yourself another, you know, that lifeline. You just extended your lifeline to ride on your lifestyle, right? And I have talked to so many people, right, like in Toronto and stuff like that, like, okay, like most people do feel the pressure now more than ever, right? But, you know, like they say, well, you know what, like, I need to have that, or I do want that. And I asked them, like, how so? I mean, if your salary or if your income cannot support that, what's the other option? And they're like, well, I'll just borrow more, right? Like the bank is not going to go down, and you're right. The banks will be bailed out at the end of the day, but you as an individual, it's a total different equation. Like, you will not be able to be bailed out by a government, right? So you will still have to ride that particular debt onwards, right? And where you're going to land, like, who knows, right? So let's get into some quick numbers here. So empty towers in Toronto, we're talking 78 months of supply as we speak. I made a video on top of that. You can check it out. Like, I went a little bit in depth when it comes to 78 months of inventory, but there's 24,000 units that are unsold, 31,000 more units coming in 2025, and 20,000 are already sitting empty. So, as mentioned before, this is a compounding effect, right? And most people are just assuming, and that's a very, very, it's not a reliable word, right? Like, you assume that things are going to be well, but they don't really have to be the way you assumed it to be, right? So things can flip, and the Canadian real estate market is not, I repeat again, is not bulletproof. It can sink, it can shift. It happened back in the 90s. It happened every 10 years. I talked about it in my other videos. I also talked about something else, and it's that particular capitalism, right? So we should have free market capitalism. That's how it was made, right? So what do I mean by that, right? So free market basically means, like, if there is value and there's buying power, that's what's going to happen. People will start actually purchasing and buying. If we get to a point where prices are ludicrous, people cannot afford it, that's where the market gets stuck, right? So with that particular formula, you will have like maybe new companies, new businesses filtered out automatically on its own because it doesn't work, right? Like they will fail and you will have a little bit of a struggle and a little bit of an adjustment in a particular market. And here we go, it will bounce back again. And then when you will have these market cycles every 10 years, every 20 years, whatever it might be, right? So the debt that nobody talks about is exactly what I was saying. Like, you know, that people are hiding their, you know, debt right there in these homes, in these equities, right, that they have seen over the years. And that's not like seriously, like that's not a calculation that's a lot that these big folks are calculating, right? And now you even with these developers and the builders and the pre-construction and all of that stuff, people are going under every single day. They're going bankrupt every single day. Why? Because the carrying cost, and it just doesn't make sense for them to continue, right? And with that, like you have hundreds of thousands of people that will be affected one way or another with this particular situation that we're currently in, right? And yes, recession is not only knocking on our doors here in Canada, recession is here, right? The unemployment is on the rise. We have that AI segment that I also talked about in my other videos that a lot of people don't believe will happen, right? And the excuse is like, look, you know, like who cares? We had that evolution and this evolution and that evolution, industrial, whatever, right? Yeah, I get that. But you know, like if a software program is able to be smarter than you by 10 folds, then you will be obsolete. It's not a machine going linear from A to B and you have to kind of calibrate it every once in a while. It's something that calibrates itself, that thinks for itself, and that can do your job and my job 10 folds better. So it's definitely something concerning. So why the crisis feels different in 2025? So tied back to the 1990s crash, so record household debt, right? Like, yes, I've discussed that. You know, people were commenting on the channel regarding the crisis in the 90s, and the actual income ratio versus the price ratio was 1 versus 4 times, right? 2025, we're talking, you know, 1 against, you know, 10 times, 14 times, 16 times, right? So it is insane, right? But the average is somewhere 12 times higher than the average income, right? Which is actually crazy, right? Who can, in the right mind, afford all of that stuff, right? So mortgage delinquencies, yes, I touched on that a little bit. The numbers don't lie, right? Yeah, people were hiding behind a lot of things, but one way or another, you will be exposed. And when you are exposed, like the numbers might look totally different. And just to give you a quick story, a real-time story, somebody that owns a property versus somebody that doesn't own a property, right? And I have seen that mockery. I have heard it on, you know, dinner tables and stuff like that. Oh, you don't own and you rent and this and that, and I will always be, you know, ahead of you and all of that stuff. Well, not necessarily, right? Because we don't know your story. It doesn't mean if you own 10 of these units, right, that you are, you know, successful. It doesn't mean anything, right? Like you could be underwater $5 million and you could be writing a negative cash flow of $30,000. I don't know that, right? But if we're sitting right there on that dinner table, you have those bragging rights, I feel. And I also feel that the people are pressured, right? Like the people that don't own, they're feeling that pressure of like, look, like if I don't own, I'm not worthy, right? So that's completely not true. So I hope you gained some value out of this video. Please like and share, and I'll see you in the next one.